Hey. Hi. Hello. My name is Zephyr. So, on my last video, I got a comment from someone. I did type it down so that I could remember. It's Hall is better. Recommended that I do book tapping and scratching on like hardcovers. And I mentioned wanting to do soft speaking, so I thought this would be a really good opportunity to do some soft speaking. So I can read some of the books, chit chat about them. I was super excited. I own way too many books. Way too many books. But let's just jump right into it. I have a huge stack of books, so I probably will try not to spend too long on each one. And sorry if you don't like soft spoken. I like it a lot. So, the first book that I picked out is one of my more recent reads, and the title is Faebound by Saara El-Arifi. I'm really big into fantasy reading. And this was a book that I saw that was debuted, I think, in 2024. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, 2024. That's when I was looking for books, was at the turn of the new year. I was pretty set on not having as much screen time. So I thought I'd pick up reading again. I used to be a big reader back in elementary school and even into middle school. I didn't bring that book series up, but it's the Black Witch series. I think it had some controversy about racism. There's a lot of fantasy racism in it. It's not always handled the best, I think is what people were took issue with. I wouldn't know. I was like 13. But this one is an adult fantasy. It was pretty good. I took some issues with it, and there's some like insta-love kind of stuff, but they keep the world building fairly simple, so it's pretty easy to understand and get into. That's what I like about it. This is the first book in the series, but I really liked it. I don't care for the characters all that much, but I really like the world that it's built in, so that's why I'm kind of sticking around. God, my nose is really itchy. But there's, it's supposed to be a trilogy, and the second book came out in February or March. I haven't been able to get a hold of it quite yet. But I'll read you the blurb about it. Can do it in front. Two elven sisters become imprisoned in the intoxicating world of the Fae. Intoxicating, where danger and love lie in wait. Faebound is the first book in an enchanting new trilogy from the Sunday Times best-selling author Our little sister, Lettle, is trying to make a living as a diviner, seeking prophecies of a better future. I'm dyslexic, give me a second. When a fatal mistake leads to Urin's exile from the elven lands, both sisters are forced into terrifying wilderness beyond their borders. There they encounter the impossible, the Fae court. The Fae haven't been seen for a millennium, but now Urin and Lettle are thrust into their seductive world, torn among their loyalties to each other, to their elven homeland, and their hearts. I'm gonna take the dust jacket off. It's just black underneath, as a lot of books are, which is kind of lame. But the world is really good. I do have a Goodreads account, and I do post reviews there sometimes. I've been less into reading lately, just ebbs and flows. But I like to do, that's my form of writing. I like to do reviews about the books, the writing, the characters, the plot. I like to write long ones. I did do one on this one. I think a lot of my complaints had to do with the insta-love. And yeah, and so like Lettle, it said in like the blurb, the summary, that she's a diviner and she tells prophecies, which is like always a big part of fantasy, we all know. But she tells these prophecies that are like really obvious. Like they aren't super cryptic. Like I think they try to foreshadow, but it feels like they just beat you over the head, where they like, I don't know, I don't want to spoil it because I think it is a good read, but the prophecies, you know what's gonna happen like the second that like the people relevant to them come around. And it was just bothering me the whole time because if everyone's like, what could it be? What could this mean? We all know what it means. Are you gonna be that obtuse about it? Like, these are supposed to be like warriors on the battlefield and they can't figure out a prophecy with obvious details? It's beyond me. Alright, I'm gonna put the dust jacket back on and we're gonna move on to the next one. I switched out my chairs and this one is still creaky. I think I'm just cursed with it. It is pretty cool about, like they handle gender and sexuality in here pretty cool. It's kind of just like a queer normative society. And I think they do a pretty cool job of handling, like disenfranchisement outside of that, like oppression in these cultures that are specific to the cultures that they live in and not necessarily focused on. Also, all of the characters in there are like people of color. They all have pretty dark skin. So it was cool that they found a different way to handle conflict and oppression. Next book I have is Wicked Plants. The Weed That Killed Lincoln's Mother and Other Botanical Atrocities. That's harsh. By Amy Stewart. I have the matching coloring book for this. I'll think about doing a video where like just sit and color, and they have like little blurbs on each of the on like the plants that they have in there too, and like classify them as like deadly or hallucinogenic or dangerous or painful. It's really cool. I color in it sometimes when I'm bored at work. If I'm not editing or doing work, but I don't do a lot of work. Not because I don't want to, because there's not much to be done. Let's see. I do want to read out of this one. I think this one would be cool to look at. But let's... Oh, I don't know if I can hold this right. But let's take a look. Flip to a good page. Destructive, painful, dangerous, and deadly. Let's see. I can find a cool, deadly one. This might take me a second. Alright, I can do this one. Looks like this one is rat bane, rat bane, rat bane, rat bane. Looks like this apparently. I do have this that we can trace it with. And even brush some of the pages with. Let's read about it. Several plants produce the deadly poison sodium fluoroacetate. Close enough. But the best well-known sources are a couple of flowering trees in West Africa. Because of the plant's geographic isolation, these trees don't pose much of a threat until the 1940s. The trees didn't pose much of a threat until the 1940s, when scientists discovered that they could extract the poison and create a potent chemical for controlling rats and predatory animals like coyotes. The poison is odorless and tasteless, and only a minute amount is required to kill a mammal. Death comes within a few hours, usually preceded by vomiting, seizures, heart irregularities, and respiratory distress. survivors may experience permanent damage to vital organs. The poison lingers in the body. If the animal is eaten by another animal, it can poison the rest of the food chain. For this reason, rat bane is sometimes referred to as the poison that keeps on killing. Sodium fluorocatate, which is also called compound 1080, was used on and off until 1972, when the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, banned it along with sodium cyanide and strychnine. However, the agency later allowed the U.S. Department of Agriculture to continue using the poison in livestock protection collars. The collars contain 15 milliliters of the compound 1080, and they can be fitted around the throat of sheep and cattle. When a coyote reaches for the jugular, it'll get a toxic dose of this poison instead. Use of the chemical for predator management is controversial. Some conservationists argue that strapping such a potent toxin to the necks of livestock could inadvertently result in the poisoning of fish, birds, and water supplies. Aerial spraying in New Zealand to kill invasive rats and possums has created outcry from activists who oppose the use of this indiscriminate killer. The poison attracted attention in 2004 when it was used by a mysterious serial killer to wipe out scores of animals in the Sao Paulo Zoo. No trace of the poison was ever found. The animal's food or water would suggest a very sophisticated killer with good access to animals. Camels, porcupines, chimpanzees, and elephants died while zoo staff scrambled to put in security measures. Although the poison is banned in Brazil, the killer managed to smuggle it in and cause terrible destruction. It just goes on to talk about threats to homeland security. It's a pretty cool book. I think they have another one, and I do not remember. I think it's Wicked Bugs, now that I'm thinking about it. So I have that other one, but I figured this would take long enough. I think I'm gonna skip that one. And you know I had to do this one. This is the Player's Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons, if you don't already know it. We have a bunch of D&D books here. I think I have the DM's Guide, and I think my spouse does too. And then I have Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I think I have one more, but I don't remember. It's been a while since I busted out my books. This is going to be quite a long video now that I'm realizing how many books I have and how much time I'm spending on them. I think I mentioned, this is supposed to be a spoken video, but I think I've mentioned before in my first video, but I've been playing D&D for 4 or 5 years now. It's really fun. Would highly recommend if you have a group you can play with. I'll read you the back of it. The Player's Handbook is the essential reference for every Dungeons & Dragons role player. It contains rules for characters creation, and advancement, backgrounds and skills, exploration and combat, equipment, spells, and much, much more. Dungeons and Dragons immerses you in a world of adventure. Explore ancient ruins and deadly dungeons. Battle monsters while searching for legendary treasures. Gain experience and powers as you trek across uncharted lands with your companions. The world needs heroes. Will you answer the call? This is the book everyone needs. Usually you can share though. That's how I started out. I actually ran a Dungeons and Dragons club in my high school with my best friend. We started it from the ground up. People really liked it. But we got a couple of these. A lot of people who joined already were playing it. But I bought like a bunch of dice. And someone helped us supply like the 1" by 1" like maps. It was really fun to do, and I got to like DM and stuff. So next we have, I wrote this down. I have a little journal thing that I write whatever I want to down in it, and I have a list of stuff to do for ASMR, like ASMR ideas. And this has been on it since I started doing this, and before I started doing this. But this is Typography Workbook. Now that sounds lame, because it is. But my major has to do with graphic design. So, typography is very, very important. And I'm very passionate about what I do. I love my major, especially the graphic design aspects. So I got this at a book sale. This was not required for my major. This is just for silly goose. I probably won't read you anything from this because that's boring. But it makes good sounds. Some pretty cool stuff in it if you're passionate about this stuff. I was looking at it with my professor and he thought it was pretty good, but he went to the website design section because, as you could probably imagine, web design moves pretty fast. So when you get books like these, like graphic design books, this is the easiest way to tell when it was made without like looking at the publishing date. And we determined that I think he guessed around 2005, and I think when we went to look at it, it was like 2003, 2004. So it's pretty spot on. He's been around it for a while, so I would hope he recognizes it. But there's a bunch of different sections in this, like poster design, the basics of typography, like serif, sans serif, slab serif, all of those. Yeah, it goes over like poster design, menu design, logos and brand identity, web design, as I have mentioned, other print materials. It just does a good job. Lots of kerning stuff, which is like the spacing between letters to make it look natural. The spine tapping on this one. Does some good gripping too. This gripping is not something I seek out, nor do I quite enjoy it, but it's fine. I can edit it. At least I can stand to listen to it while editing. Let's move on to the next one. This one's really fun. A past partner of mine got this for me for my birthday. And it is the 10th anniversary edition of Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. If you haven't read this book already, I would recommend reading it. I have my gripes about it, but it's pretty good overall. I really like the way that Madeline Miller recontextualizes Greek myth. And I think this cover is really fun. I like the gold. You can't, I mean, you can kind of tell, but it's super glary. But it's got like a book page marker and everything. I've also read her book, Sorcery. I didn't like that one that much. I thought it was really boring. Because it is. I think I did a review on that a while ago. I don't know if I posted it to Goodreads. I know I wrote one down, but I might have posted it. But the majority of what I said was it was boring, and Sorcery did nothing. Like, all the things that happened in the book, except for like the inciting incident, didn't happen because of her. Like, things just kept happening to her and she'd react to it. She didn't have a lot of agency in her own story. And maybe that was kind of the point, but it didn't make for a good story, I guess. It was fine. I did read through all of it. I think I gave it like 3 stars. I like that this one is printed on the cover. And not on a dust jacket, because those are really annoying to read with. I think I've read Song of Achilles like 5 times. I liked it a lot in high school. There's some parts I have issues with. I think Madeline Miller, at least from the 2 books that I've read, Sorcery and Song of Achilles, really likes to make her main characters very miserable. Like, in the beginning of both of them, it's like, everyone hates me and everyone abuses me, and I didn't do anything to deserve this. And it's pretty miserable. And it, I think that there are other ways that you can make someone care about your character than have everyone around them abuse them, and like physically and verbally. can connect with a character without them being like ostracized and abused by quite literally everyone. It lasts a lot longer in Sorcery, which made it a real slog to get through like the first chapter or two. And I know it's supposed to be like, oh, gods aren't very nice, they aren't what they seem. Some of the stuff in there is crazy, at least in Sorcery in terms of like gods. It's more focused on gods, that one is. Alright. There's a card in it. How cute. Copies. I don't remember getting this. I don't know who got it for me. There's nothing written on it. I know that I remember liking it and someone picking it up for me just because I like the look of it. I do. I love bees. I love being outdoors. I garden. My garden's doing really well. Oh, hold on. There's more I have to show you. The inside pages look like this. I wish that it was like gold on all of these pages, but I know this book looks massive, but it's a good read. Especially if you like Greek mythology. I'm really picky about my Greek mythology retellings. I'm getting really sick of them. And my name is Zephyr. How are you making Zephyr sick of Greek? That's like my name is Greek mythology. But I don't read a whole bunch of them anymore. I've gone back to fantasy. But the last book I have is this one, which I would actually really highly recommend. I think it's rated really highly on Goodreads too, for good reason. But this is Sorcery of Thorns. I don't have a review of it posted, but that's because I read it for the first time in like middle school or high school. But it is a really good fantasy book. The world building is really cool. The way the magic works is really cool. This one is young adult. But it's really, like, I've reread it in more recent times than when I first read it. And I'd probably reread it again. I think that the world is really cool. I think the main character, I don't think I had a lot of gripes with her. I mean, there's always going to be issues that you take with the characters because they make decisions in the moment and you're like a third person viewer. She's always going to be like, oh, that's stupid, why would you do that? I don't know, she's like 17, 18, she's going to make bad decisions. But I will read you the synopsis, so hopefully you'd be interested in it. There's a letter in it. Alright, it says, all sorcerers are evil. Elizabeth has known that as long as she's known anything. Raised as a foundling in one of the Ostermere's great libraries, Elizabeth has grown up among the tools of sorcery, magical grimoires that whisper on the shelves and rattle beneath iron chains. If provoked, they transform into grotesque monsters of ink and leather. She hopes to become a warden, charged with protecting the kingdom from their power. Then an act of sabotage releases the library's most dangerous grimoire. Elizabeth's desperate intervention implicates her in the crime, and she is torn from her home to face justice in the capital, with no one to turn to but her sworn enemy, the sorcerer Nathaniel Thorn, and his mysterious demonic servant. She finds herself entangled in the centuries-old conspiracy. Not only could the great libraries go up in flames, but the world along with them. As her so loves, even about herself, for Elizabeth has a power that she never guessed, and a future she could have never imagined. It's really cool how they handle powers and sorcerers, and you get some of those like fantasy elements of like big manners and I think even maybe a ball at some point. The Nathaniel and his demonic servant are very cool characters, and I like the way that Elizabeth grows throughout it, and her world changes and she understands things differently. I think they handled that better in this book than they did in the Black Witch Chronicles. It's less about race when it comes to her hatred of like sorcerers. There's like a fairly good reason if you couldn't tell by like the demonic stuff, or not a very good reason, but a reason that's more valid than like you got dark skin and live in the desert. But another thing that I was really excited because I was really excited to make this video because along with being a reviewer, my Instagram actually used to be like a Bookstagram account. I was doing that for a little bit. And then I wasn't in the reading mood anymore. And it had the Obsidian and C-Class name already attached to it, so I was like, I'm gonna do whatever I want. So I archived some of my posts from on there. And I haven't posted since. But out of all of these, I think I would, out of these that are more like actual novels, I think I would recommend this one the most. Let's see where I left off. Probably shouldn't read that. I used to draw in my books and not care for them. This was intentional because I used it as a bookmark. I'm not very good about my bookmarks. And you can see in here that I have notes for homework I had to do. And edgy drawings, because look at me, of course I'd be edgy in middle school and high school. But it's a really good book. I would highly recommend this one. Alright. I think this video's gone on long enough. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you have more recommendations on things you'd like to see from me, feel free to put them in the comments. I love hearing your guys' ideas too. I have a million ideas, but I like to do what you guys want to do too. But tell me in the comments what your favorite book is. And it doesn't have to be anything highbrow. Like, you don't have to be like, I love The Great Gatsby. Unless you do love The Great Gatsby, I don't know. But even if it's something small, or a graphic novel, or a comic book, I'd love to hear about that. I'm really not sure what my favorite book is as of late. Sorcery of Thorns is really good, but I haven't read it in years. I'm not the biggest fan of young adult anymore. I really liked Faebound, but I don't know if it's enough to call it my fave. I gave it 5 stars. I'd probably change it to 4 stars now. But tell me in the comments if you so desire. And rest easy. I will see you next week.